So in case you've been living under a rock for like the past month or so, then you may have heard of a little game called PalWorld. It's literally taken the entire world by storm. But before we get into that, hi again. I know it's been a while, but welcome back to Push to Talk. If you've kept tabs on KKP over the last year or so, then you may have known that we had a TV show called Main Game, which aired on TV2 here in Malaysia. That pretty much took up all of my time. Not only was I assisting in scripting the entire show, but I also scripted and created videos for the video segments, and also co-hosted it, so that was insane. Can't really speak too much on the future of Main Game at the moment, but all I can really say is that Push to Talk Season 2 may be kind of short. But with all that said, we're back. Let's just get straight into business, shall we? So, PalWorld surpassed over 7 million in sales last week. It also surpassed 2 million in concurrent players, which absolutely blows the previous record out the water for a paid game, which was originally PUBG, but that has a little asterisk beside it because it became free to play. So right now though, it is currently PalWorld. In case you're unfamiliar with PalWorld, then you may just think it's just Pokemon with guns, which is half correct. But yeah, its survival mechanics are definitely inspired by Ark, and its combat and movement mechanics are definitely inspired by things like Genshin Impact and Breath of the Wild, and pretty much any other clone that comes from Breath of the Wild. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to beat a dead horse as much as the next guy, but I feel as though this matter has been talked about so much, and there's still yet so much confusion. So I just want to try my best to clear things up from a somewhat neutral standpoint. First of all, let's talk about the flipped assets. Now, as of my understanding, flipped assets are usually the utilization of store-bought assets. Say, Unreal Engine, for example. Say a developer develops a game in Unreal Engine and uses assets purely bought from the Unreal store. As of my knowledge, that is the utilization of flipped assets, no? I'm not a game developer. Yes, I'm in the gaming sphere, but I feel like this term has been thrown around kind of like how the term strawman gets thrown around when it doesn't really make sense. Now, there's no evidence to prove that they are definitely flipped assets. The only real evidence really points towards the direction that they kind of just copied the models of Pokemon. Now, if we look at this X thread, which has just been blowing up on Twitter/X from Cecilia Faye, it covers around 111 pals in PalWorld that show a striking resemblance between existing Pokemon. And I'm not gonna lie, the resemblance is outstanding. There are definitely a lot of inspirations drawn. Some are even blatant copies if we even go and look at this thread here. You line up the models between some pals and some Pokemon, and if you scale it right, they are almost identical. Now, these threads are the only real evidence that we have that support this claim, and I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look that good. From a neutral standpoint, it really just depends on where you draw the line between plagiarism and inspiration. I do think that a lot of the pals in this game do have a striking resemblance, so much so that some could be considered just a blatant ripoff. Which, you know, not the best thing to have in your reputation, but I don't think it should stop you from playing the game. Yes, Pokémon are making money off of this game, but don't forget, we are dealing with Nintendo here, who are already a massive conglomerate, who have more than enough money to sue if need be, but also don't actually need the extra money. If the roles were reversed and Nintendo was ripping off, let's say, Pocket Pair, who are a relatively somewhat indie company, then I feel like the entire narrative would just kind of turn on its head. Now, that's not to say I'm anti-Nintendo. As an esports person, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Nintendo. I don't like what they did with Smash. I don't like how they just don't support esports at all and see what it does for the game. But that doesn't mean that I'm all for just completely stealing assets as well. Now, one thing that needs to be taken into consideration, which I feel like a lot of people kind of miss the mark on, is the whole point of fair use. If this was in the West, then I feel like an argument for fair use could be made, but the thing is that this is happening in Japan. Nintendo and Pocket Pair are both Japanese-based companies, and in Japan, there's no such thing as fair use. That's why it's so hard for people to become anime-related content creators, because of how strict Japanese companies are. That's why you've never really heard of a Japanese anituber before. Now, with that said, Nintendo has a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a stickler when it comes to, you know, changing their games or stealing things from their games. So it begs the question to why has nothing happened yet? PalWorld has been announced for the best part of a year, if I'm not mistaken, and Nintendo has had more than enough time to take action. It might well be that they are on their way to, you know, pursuing legal action, but I feel as though that Nintendo's smart enough to do that before the game even releases. Even before the game came out, just the premise alone, to me, looked like it was going to make a lot of sales. It's literally Pokemon with guns. Like, who doesn't want that? Yeah, we didn't ask for it, but I'm not gonna say no. So that's definitely something that we need to take into account, especially because the head of Poképair has stated online that he's not really afraid of any legal action, and he's pretty confident that himself and the game are pretty much in the clear. Now let's go back to the assets. Yes, they do look a lot alike. And, you know, a lot of people were giving Poképair the benefit of the doubt and just, you know, calling them lazy. But some people went as far as to say that they utilized AI technology to create these new models and assets. There's no real evidence to back this up. Now, the only real evidence to support this claim is that the head of Poképair has worked on AI-based games before. The trailer that you're seeing behind isn't that game. This is Craftopia, which is the game that Poképair worked on prior to PalWorld, and if you can't tell, it's just their own take on kind of Breath of the Wild, essentially. Now, the actual game in question is this game called AI Art Imposter, where essentially you kind of just, you get shown an art piece, and you kind of just have to guess if it's real art or if it's AI. This is the game that the head of Poképair worked on prior to Craftopia and PalWorld. And he's been a massive advocate since then for AI-generated art, which in and of itself is an extremely controversial topic. You do with that what you will, because to me, this doesn't provide sufficient evidence enough that PalWorld utilizes AI technology. There's just no blatant record of that at all. If it did become the case that AI was utilized during the development of PalWorld's assets, the question is, would it change your stance? For me, personally, I think it would a little bit, but not in the way that you would think, not in the general consensus of AI is stolen art, but that's not where I'm going with this. You see, there is a massive supply of artists that want to work on games, but the demand just isn't there. If a game like this ends up utilizing AI art, I feel like it's a disjustice to those said artists. Those people who have hopes and dreams of doing what they love for a living kind of just get their dreams torn away. So for the controversy, that's all there really is to it, as of my knowledge. I know there's a couple things that go a little bit more in depth, but these are the two biggest matters that have the fucking internet going AWOL at the moment. At the end of the day, it's up to you to decide whether or not you support this or not. I am personally gonna continue playing PalWorld. Then again, I didn't really pay for it. I got it on the Xbox Game Pass, so not directly supporting it, but obviously, you know, I'm sure that Xbox is paying them for that. But right now, I am very much of the consensus that they're innocent until proven guilty. But if it just so happens that I am indeed wrong and AI was utilized during the development of the assets, then hey, I'll eat my own words. I'm a man, I can do it. Hi, post-production Lewis here. There's been a development since I began editing the video, and that's that the Pokemon company has officially come out with a statement which pretty much states that they're going to begin an investigation on Poképair and PalWorld regarding the infringement of Pokemon intellectual properties and assets. Now, if we just take a look here on the corporate Pokemon Japanese page, they also have the statement in Japanese, and then they have the translation below, and it goes as follows. Titled Inquiries Regarding Other Companies' Games. We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts of infringement on the intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future, the Pokemon Company. It's an extremely short statement, but pretty much all they're stating is that they're going to begin an investigation on Poképair. What comes from this is most likely going to be just a lawsuit. Poképair has earned quite a lot of fucking money in the past week or so, so if it's just a big fat check that they need to cut, then I think this could be best case scenario. What I think is probably worst case scenario would probably be the case that all profits would belong to Nintendo, which would just put Poképair under, essentially. So, yeah. I think that this investigation is very, very, very rocky for Poképair, but I do think that if they end up just having to cut a fat check, then that's probably the best case scenario for them. I say this because since recording the initial part of the video and going on to edit it, that's been about a day and a half now, and in that day and a half, I've not only finished editing that video, but I've also gone on to play 20 hours of PalWorld. All of this news came out while I was sleeping, after I went on that binge, so this is just all a big mess for me right now. My stance still pretty much remains the same, but that's kind of because my stance was really on the whole AI matter. I really did not care about the whole Nintendo versus Pocket Pair, because Nintendo, not the biggest fan, and Pocket Pair, indie company, maybe shouldn't be stealing, maybe should have just come up with some original models, but hey, you made a great fucking game. But yeah, that's about it, really. That's really the end of the video now, and I, you know, for now, it's going to be the end of the story, until further developments come up. But do let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm really interested to know what your stance is on the whole AI matter, and then obviously, whether or not Pokemon really has a case here as well, which I think they do, actually. But yeah, I'm always down to have a constructive conversation, regarding these types of matters, especially because I'm not too knowledgeable about it. I do my best to read up on it, but obviously, you know, there's obviously going to be smarter people out there, and I would always love to learn more about intellectual property infringement and you know, unique gray areas like this. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy the more candidness of, you know, this new push to talk format. I know I do. I do ramble on a little bit more, and I'm not as scripted as much, but you get to see more of my personality. You know, it's a little bit more intimate. You know, just you and me. This video should be coming out on Monday. That is not the intended schedule for this video. I want to either do it on Friday or Saturday. I still need to decide. End of the week, pretty much. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, then be sure to like, subscribe if you want to see more content just like this, and obviously ding dong that notification bell to be notified when we upload next, because we upload videos every single week. Thank you ever so much for watching. My name's been Lewis from Kakuchopurei, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Ciao for now.